Hey, how's it going YouTube? This is your boy Chosen, and oh boy. Today's video, honestly I feel like there is no winning on both sides here between the Boruto fanbase and Naruto fanbase, since this is such a controversial topic. But as someone who literally does these kinds of discussion videos, I'm not going to avoid a topic just to avoid any slander. Everything I'm going to say in this video is my personal opinion. Everyone is entitled to their own, so try to keep that in mind. But anyways, yes, today I'm going to be giving my own personal opinion on why Sasuke never uses Rinnegan, and I'll be discussing how I feel about it towards the end. I also want to try and go as in detail as I can. So on that note, I'm going to start all the way to when Sasuke first got his Rinnegan in Shippuden, explain why it was never fully used, then I'll move over to Boruto and do the same thing there. I know I shouldn't really have to explain why Sasuke never used his Rinnegan to its full capability in Shippuden, but just in case some question it, I'll do it anyways. No harm done. So Sasuke first, as many of you know, received his Rinnegan after being revived by Kabuto and receiving half of Hagoromo's 6th-path chakra, which allowed him to awaken the 6th Tomoe Rinnegan, which was the only one of its kind until Urashiki made his appearance in the Boruto series. Now, despite receiving the Rinnegan, funny enough, Sasuke never used any of the basic 6th-path abilities until trapping all the tailed beasts in Ichibaku Tensei. He more or less literally only used the Heavenly Hand power, which grants him the ability to switch places with any target instantaneously. And honestly, if you want to go into specifics, because technically speaking, Catastrophic Planetary Devastation is a buffed up version of the original. The only other two times he uses any of the basic abilities is when pulling all of the Naruto clones towards him and taking Naruto's chakra for himself, which all happened in the final battle. And I know Sasuke did some wild shit in his fight against Naruto that required the use of the Rinnegan, and even Kurama himself, well, mainly because of Naruto holding back, said that if Sasuke mastered all his Rinnegan abilities, he'd be in big trouble, implying that Sasuke did not use his Rinnegan to its full capability in that fight, and honestly never did in Shippuden. Sasuke, despite fighting two gods and one demigod being Naruto, never once went all out. And I know in his fight with Naruto he was, technically speaking, going all out, but I mean going all out while fully mastering the Rinnegan, like Sasuke at his strongest with zero setbacks. The reason, of course, like Kurama said, is because it was a completely new godly power that was just bestowed onto him. He didn't know all of his abilities and how to effectively use them. There were some that he was able to master, like using Catastrophic Planetary Devastation, which was a good touch because prior we saw Madara use it in order to distract Naruto and Sasuke so he could complete his plan, and even absorbing Naruto's chakra, which Madara did against the 5 great nations. So those two moves were no mystery to him after seeing Madara perform them. I'm going to assume Heavenly Hand power and Universal Pull, however, was just something Sasuke unconsciously performed. Like it was just something that happened, but him not using the human path's ability, for example, to rip out souls makes sense, seeing as how Sasuke was never once truly interested in the Rinnegan in terms of acquiring one. He's never seen anybody use it or was never taught it. Plus, it's not an easy ability to perform, so even if Sasuke knew it, like Kurama said again, he wouldn't have mastered it down, so he probably would have never used it. And even if he did, personally, I don't really see what most of the abilities would have done against Madara, Kaguya, or Naruto. He would never land the human path due to those three just being too fast and slippery, and same goes towards the Naraka path, seeing as how the only time it was used was when the user had their opponents trapped, or to be exact, not moving. The only moves that really made sense to use was Heavenly Hand power and maybe Almighty Push in terms of defense, but that's really all. Nothing else would have really worked. Even if Sasuke summoned multiple giant meteors from the sky, Naruto was already seen to be able to destroy them, and I don't doubt that Madara could easily do the same. And as for Kaguya, she could have just teleported to another dimension, wait for them to land, then teleport back. Something that simple. So realistically, why waste chakra on flashy jutsus that simply wouldn't do anything? So I do think Sasuke in terms of Shippuden was at least justified in not using the Rinnegan to its max, seeing as how it was just a newly acquired eye with no real prior understanding on how it fully functions, and the fact that majority of its basic abilities wouldn't really do much against the opponents he was going up against anyways. So with Shippuden explained, this is when things get interesting, and I'll be now moving over to Boruto, as this is kind of where most of the commotion is revolved around. So why didn't Sasuke use his Rinnegan to its fullest in Boruto, especially since it's been stated a few times that he at that point in his age has fully mastered it? And this is something I've honestly thought about for a long time and even discussed with a few people. The honest answer I can give is that not just Sasuke, but both Naruto and Sasuke are just too powerful for the series. That's literally it. It's not that Sasuke actually has low chakra reserves or just doesn't know all of his abilities. No, he's just literally too strong for the series, at least up until the Jigen battle. If you're not convinced or think what I'm spouting is BS, well, let me ask you this. Why was Amaterasu never successful in directly landing an attack against any person? Why did it never really do anything? If you answered because the damaging effects of this ability are too great, you are correct. Amaterasu can literally burn every and anything, and the only way to take it out is to basically acquire Rinnegan and absorb the jutsu or use Almighty Push. And we know how rare it is for someone to just wield their Rinnegan like that. If Kishimoto actually let Amaterasu effectively just latch on whenever Sasuke desired, he slaughters so many people. And in that same logic, that's what's basically happening here in Boruto. If Naruto and Sasuke weren't held back and were to go 100% in every battle they go up against, what's the point of the show being called Boruto, right? At the end of the day, as much as people don't respect it, the story is going to revolve and shape up around characters like Boruto, Sarada, Mitsuki, and Kawaki. Sure, Naruto and Sasuke are still important, but not as important as the ones I just listed. People complaining that Naruto and Sasuke are nerfed for Boruto's development and plot progression are mostly right, but also kind of wrong in a way. See, the reason I kind of disagree with this is just a simple fact that some of these enemies Naruto and Sasuke are faced with are just not that much of a threat for these two to go all out against. They went all out against Momoshiki, yes, because he was a world threat, but didn't against Shin, because I mean, like, I think Konohamaru would have been fine fighting Shin on his own, and I'm being serious about that. Yes, there are times to when Naruto and Sasuke need to go all out, but especially since they are in a time of peace, the enemies they face are nothing of that to an Otsutsuki. Why would Sasuke kill Shin in a Chibaku Tensei when he can just beat him with lightning release? Why waste all that chakra just to look good when you can resort to lesser technique which also require less chakra to take down your opponents? Sasuke isn't stupid, and if you really know his character, doesn't care for accolades or fame. He just gets the job done. When he needs to resort to planetary devastation, he'll resort to it, but until then, yeah, we aren't gonna see him use the human path for no real reason. But of course, we have the side to where I do agree that Naruto and Sasuke can be disregarded sometimes by being nerfed for the development of these characters. And the best example is of course the Urashiki arc. Had Sasuke not been caught by Urashiki's fishing hook, Boruto's development with Naruto and truly understanding where he came from probably wouldn't have succeeded as well. See the connection? For Boruto to get his development to further improve his relationship with his father, Sasuke was not only restricted from using the Rinnegan, but also had majority of his chakra drained out. Yeah, it was nice that the development happened, but honestly, sacrificing Sasuke, which wasn't the full part at play, but definitely was a part, was one of the flaws of that arc, because literally the whole purpose of Sasuke not using his Rinnegan was so that Jiraiya and the others wouldn't suspect him, yet in the end, he still used Amaterasu, which Jiraiya knows of, and erased their memories. So realistically, Sasuke not using his Rinnegan logically didn't make any sense, because it wouldn't have mattered anyways. But again, on the other hand, the story is going to revolve around Boruto and the cast. Naruto and Sasuke are just not at that point anymore to where things happen here and there for their character's sake. It's Boruto's turn now. And pointing over to the manga, and specifically the Naruto, Sasuke, Boruto vs Ishiki fight, I'm not gonna get too into this because everyone has their own opinions on how it was done, but personally to me, and how I feel after the whole fight concluded, it's not precisely the fact that Sasuke lost his Rinnegan that kind of sucked. It was just the fact that prior to that, so beginning of the battle to the end, he didn't even really try to do much, and with the writers knowing that this is most likely the last time we're gonna see Sasuke in the battle with his Rinnegan, you think for the last time they'd at least allow him to perform every trick in the book, and that's obviously matching how much chakra he had left. Seeing as how before the battle he told Boruto that him and Naruto are prepared to die for the village, and will go all out if needed be, yet that wasn't really the case in terms of Sasuke's side at least. I fully understand that even then, just like with Kaguya, Naruto, and Madara, these techniques probably wouldn't have done much anyway, seeing as how crafty and powerful Ishiki was, but I think at least in terms of fan service, they possibly could have allowed Sasuke to perform more techniques, and maybe even those basic Rinnegan techniques we've never seen him use before, like Almighty Push, to blow away those rods that Ishiki demolished them with in their first battle. Again, obviously Almighty Push isn't going to do anything to take him down, but small details like that would have been nice to see. So I completely understand why some may be upset with how Sasuke was handled in this fight. But the last thing I'm going to say to end off the video is there is still hope, so please wait until it gets animated, because I promise that whole fight and all fights prior are going to be 10 times better. You look at the Naruto and Sasuke versus Momo fight in the manga and compare it to the anime. I mean, it's night and day. Look at the Naruto and Sasuke battle, comparing them from manga to anime. Sasuke never used universal pull in the manga, but did in the anime. In my opinion, I honestly do think when it's all said and done, the anime will surpass the manga, because any little plot holes or flaws will most likely get explained or will be twisted in a way to make more sense. So yes, I do have higher expectations for Sasuke to get a little flashy here in this battle with Ishiki, seeing as how this is the last time we see him use the Rinnegan. But anyways guys, that's all for today's video. Let me know how you truly feel about how Sasuke's character has been handled so far in the story down below. I'll catch you on the next one.